bronchial thing.
Here he comes.
Is he infected?
9:59.
It was and it wasn't.
Oh, mine.
All right, I'd like to call this meeting to order. We have Pastor Ann Grandel from Gulf Shore Church here for the invocation.
Good morning.
Good morning.
What a joy, Lord, to look back over the past quarter of a century to see how Bonita Springs has evolved. We are eternally grateful for your guidance and provision, especially during trying times of adverse weather and economic challenges. We look forward with anticipation to what you have in store for our region in the coming years. As many pause to celebrate this holy time of year, we ask you to refresh us. Lead us to refocus where necessary, particularly these faithful leaders and staff. May the hope of heaven bring peace to those who have suffered loss, and joy to those affected by the trials of life, for the joy of the Lord gives us great strength. Holy Spirit, we invite you to guide all of today's discussions and decisions. We pray this in faith and for your honor and glory in our Savior's name. Amen.
Join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Right, Mike, call the roll.
Councilmember Bogas.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Purdon.
Here.
Councilmember Carr.
Here.
Mayor Gibson.
Present.
Councilmember Corey.
Here.
Councilmember Fullick. Councilmember Fitzpatrick.
Here.
Thank you. All right, public comment on agenda items. Do we have any registered?
We have 10 registered speakers.
We'll call them first.
Kim Humphreys. She'll be followed by Chip Greenwood.
You can start lining up.
Okay, good morning.
Good morning.
My name's Kim Humphreys. I'm president of Imperial Harbor neighborhood on Old 41 by the post office. I live at 26075 Countess Lane. I represent over 1,000 residents in our neighborhood. We're thrilled to support the Rail to Trails through our community with a chance to take maybe 1,000 vehicles off the roads because a lot of our residents are retirees and they do bike and walk, and we're very excited about this. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Chip Greenwood, and he'll be followed by Eli Dolinsky.
Hi, good morning. Chip Greenwood, Buffalo Chips Restaurant. I just want to thank you for the opportunity to speak here for a few minutes, but had a lot more prepared, but we'll go just 4 minutes, Mike. But congratulations on your victories and your elections, you guys, and Mayor Gibson. And thank you for your service to Bonita Springs, too. It's awesome. So I'm here in favor to show my support of the BERT. I think it's going to be a great amenity of the city. I had a lot of bullet points that obviously it's really done well, this presentation, this book. So I'll just make it brief and tell you that, maybe show you from my background, because, you know, our family's been here for 40 plus years. So back in the day, we weren't even incorporated, right? We're Lee County, and my dad was on the CRA. So we were always trying to get money from Lee County to help us out. We always get neglected, seems like. But I guess what I wanted to express is, you know, when 2020 or 2000, we were incorporated, Mayor Paul passed, we were discussing the band shell and Riverside Park, you know. It seemed like a lot of money back then, right? We were going to put $1 million or something. I forgot the exact figure, but it's like, whoa, you know, and now it's the best thing we ever did, right? Bamboo Village, bought that. The dog park, we bought that off of Corky Mayhood, right? That was millions of dollars. That's the best amenity we ever could have here. It was a great attraction for tourists and for locals. So just having this trail is going to be amazing. Just another amenity, open up opportunities for businesses, even the access points to get in and out. So I guess everybody knows it's going to be great. It's just the money, right? How do we get the money? But just keep in mind that it's not that much money compared to, what we've done in the past. We can do this, and grants. I don't know how it works exactly, getting the bonds, but we can make it happen. And yeah, so let's do this. Let's move forward, please. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Eli Dolinsky, and he'll be followed by Deb Orton.
Yeah, I'm a resident in Bonita Isles here for the last 5 years, and I've been living up in New Jersey for the last 40 years before that, and we had a bike trail up there, which was just wonderful. And so you guys know how positive everything is. I'm not sure even what the negatives are, but just to promote commercial values of the properties, tourists, mental health, physical health, every which way, I think it's just a wonderful prospect for us. I know the cost is there, but I think overall the investment in this process is going to give you dividends down the road for everybody, and I'm just here to support that every which way. So I just wanted to say that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Deb Orton, and she'll be followed by Steve Gunther.
Hi, I'm no stranger here, and I wanted to say good morning and thank every one of you for your service. I know you serve us very well in Bonita Springs, and I'm really grateful for it. I'm here today on behalf of Friends of Bonita Estero Rail Trail to encourage you to approve the vote today on the letter of credit to create a greenway and trail that will be transformational to Bonita Springs and to Southwest Florida. The commitment that you make today will increase the likelihood for success with grants from private, state, and federal levels. I'm going to talk about 3 of those that our decisions will be made in the next 2 to 3 months. The first one being at the end of April, the Florida Wildlife Corridor funding. The second one in June is Florida Forever. The third one in July is the Sun Trails Acquisition Fund. All 3 of those we have already put in the applications. We're already sending the letters, talking to the decision makers, and those decisions are really hinge on, is there a glide path that this could be successful before they'll give that money. Estero has made a $15 million commitment. Collier County has committed to making their commitment by the end of April. The decision today will impact the state of Florida grants. It will also impact private grants and donations that we are actively pursuing. The board for our 501c3, which is sitting here in the front row, we all do this work because it's a unique opportunity to leave a legacy. When we talk with our residents that donate and volunteer for this cause, they always say it's their opportunity to leave a legacy. Today's your chance to leave that legacy as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Steve Gunther, and he'll be followed by Peter
Sorry,
O'Flynn.
there'll be no clapping at all in the chambers, please. Please hold all applause. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Steve Gunther. I live in Pelican Landing. I'm a 15-year part-time resident of Bonita Springs, and I love it here. I always hate following Deb Orton because she's a great person at preparing and making her points. Like Deb, I'm also on the board of the Friends of Bonita Estero Rail Trail. I've been one of the original board members since 2003. And I am really hopeful that we can get this trail built, and I'm confident with your support that's going to happen. You've probably seen our brochure that describes the benefits and stuff, economic, recreation, transportation. I'm just going to say a few words about safety. I'm an avid biker. I bike 2,500 miles a year or so with actually some of these clowns here in the front row who biked over here to join us at this meeting. And in the time that I've lived in this community, I've had 3 friends of mine, 3, who've been killed on the roads in this area. One right across from Bonita Springs High School. So this is personal for me from a safety point of view. Our most recent incident happened not too long ago where, and by the way, I'm a former board member of the Pelican Landing Community Association. Another former board member of the Pelican Landing Community Association, Marilyn Price, was biking, and she was rear-ended by a car probably going 40 to 45 miles an hour in a much slower, probably going faster than that. But Marilyn was hit, thrown 100 feet down the road, and the car came, pulled up, stopped right next to her. The woman opened the door, and there was Marilyn lying on the ground. Thankfully, she was no brain injury, but she spent several months in the hospital and rehab and so on. Our roads are unsafe, and we have to give the riders who are out there for recreation, which is a health benefit, obviously, an opportunity to be safe on our roads. Same thing with bikers who bike to work every morning. I see them on 41 at 5:30 in the morning. The rail trail would give them an opportunity as an alternate transportation corridor for their safety. So I'm thankful for your support of this project, and I hope it will continue, and I urge you to support this with the highest level that you feel you can justify here. I think it'll be a tremendous transformational project for our area, and let's get this done. Thank you.
Thank you. No applause,
Peter
please.
O'Flynn, and he'll be followed by Amelia Carumba.
Peter O'Flynn, 20-year resident, love it here in Bonita Springs. When I was in your seat, the thing that struck me most about Sun Trail was the fact that this was a state imprint with massive state dollars put into it. And to me, it was all about trying to leverage local dollars to get those state dollars. And I think that's exactly what Chris's idea on the letter credit does. When you look now, Lee County is getting Sun Trail dollars out on the beach for Fort Myers Beach to Bonita Path. Tens of thousands of, maybe millions of dollars on the Caloosahatchee River Bridge for a bike path. So they've figured out how to leverage their dollars. And to me, obviously, I wish, just like Sarasota County or Pinellas County, Lee County was paying for this, but it's not happening. So we've got to be creative and leverage our dollars. So it's, to me, everything Deb just said. By showing this commitment, it opens the door to get funding. It's as simple as that. So I think it's a great idea. Thank you.
Thank you.
Amelia Carumba, and she'll be followed by Patrick Post.
Hi. My name is Amy Carumba, and I've been a resident of Bonita Springs since 2010. And I also am a retired council person for the Bonita Springs Council. And it's really great being retired, but I'm so happy to have all these very competent people sitting on that seat right now. But one of the bad things about retirement is that you don't finish the projects that you started. And I was on the council when we voted the original CIP to allocate towards the BERT project. So this new development of how we can leverage our funding so that we can get the property at least bought is phenomenal. So I commend the council for going forward with that. And I ask full support from the council so the dream that we had in the council that I served on goes forward. Thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Patrick Post, and he'll be followed by Jan Horbert.
Hello, my name is Patrick Post, and I'm a member of Friends of Bert, very supportive of them and their cause. And one of the issues is funding for building the bike path after the corridor is purchased. I work for Abbey Carpet and Flooring. They are a sponsor, as well as my own group, Sustainable Planet, giving money to their cause. And I've spoken with Abbey Carpet and Flooring. They're a $1.8 billion company, local. Here, their corporate offices are in Bonita Bay. And I've talked with them about pledging money for building the bike path, because that's a critical issue. The amount of cost, quotes have been around $50–60 million with bridges. And I talked with them, and they are interested in potentially being one of the pledgers for building the cost of construction. So if it is approved, you will see many, many corporations wanting to be a part of that, to contribute to it. And I think Abby would be, with 800 stores nationwide as franchises and 200 stores of Floors to Go, they own that as well. They would be advocate for this. The rail line runs by their warehouse store in Bonita Springs in Old 41. There's a warehouse location there and a showroom. And then they have a store in downtown Naples and one at Wiggins Pass. It just so happens that the rail line passes 2 blocks from the store in Bonita Springs on Old 41. And it runs, their other store, main store, is at Wiggins Pass. And it's about maybe a half mile to the east. So they have a very great interest in this, and I'm promoting it with them as an employee there. And I think you will see them step up to help fund the building of it once it's approved and the corridor is purchased. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jan Herbert, and she'll be followed by Richard Foreman.
Hi, I'm Jan Herbert. I live at 26058 Countess Lane, Bonita Springs, part-time, and the other part I live in the Midwest. I'm here to tell you how we travel. We're old people, so what we do is we drive for like 2.5 hours, and then we look up around the trails, and we stop, we get our bikes off, we ride our bikes for an hour or two, get back in the car, and then drive 2.5 or 3 hours later. That's how we travel across the country. As a result of that, we have traveled lots and lots around the trail. We met lots of very interesting people on the railroad trails. I'm here to tell you specifically about one railroad trail portion in Cincinnati, Ohio. It's where I grew up. There was a town called Loveland that was a ghost town. All the people were kind of leaving. 20 years ago, somebody brought up the idea of a rails to trails, and all of the neighbors came and said, "We don't want it here. We're going to open ourselves up to all kinds of stuff." And they lost, and the trail was opened and developed. 20 years later, and my sister lives in Loveland, so I still go there. I still ride the trail and stuff. But 20 years ago, that town was a ghost town. Now it is generating so much money for that little town. It's a very charming town. They have riders from all over the country making that trail a destination place. So the potential in revenue that a rail to trail in Bonita Springs is pretty great. And I think that's something to consider when you're talking about committing so much money into a project. It can be a revenue generating project, and I support it wholeheartedly. I'm really excited about it, so thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Richard Foreman, and he'll be followed by Christine Tumulty.
Good morning, Mayor, City Council. Clearly, a lot of the initiatives that were put forth many years ago are paying off today in terms of the city of Bonita Springs. And I just want to say, obviously, the economics have to make sense, but clearly any development that drives more people to downtown is something that could be good for the city. And I'm sure you'll consider in that light. Thank you.
Thank you.
Christine Tumulty, and she'll be followed by Jim Magnus.
Hi, good morning. I'm Christine Tumulty, and I've only been here about 6 years, and I'm a resident of Bonita Springs. What I have found in the growth of the traffic and biking as well as cars in the last 6 years has been exponential. It blows my mind. Every year I come, and it's worse and worse. I know we have a lot to consider today. I know there's a lot of money to be allocated, And the only thing I have to say is the safety of our citizens far outweighs any amount of money that you would ever have to approve today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Last registered speaker is Jim Magnus.
Bless you.
Good morning, Mayor, Council, and staff. For the record, my name is Jim Magnus, a resident of Bonita Springs since 1990. I want to speak today in strong support of the Rails to Trails project and the council moving forward to secure a letter of credit for the potential purchase of that right-of-way. I believe that I've spoken with all of you over the last years or so about the benefits of the Rails to Trails, and I think we can all agree. We have had so many great speakers here talk about the economic benefits, talk about the safety and the connectivity for the kids getting to school, the workers' ability to stretch their walking and biking distance to be able to get to work, and the healthier lifestyle that it provides for people. I understand and appreciate that Bonita Springs has followed a pay-as-you-go philosophy for capital projects, and that's been a fiscally conservative approach that has worked well. But BERT is a once-in-a-generation opportunity. It offers real, measurable benefits for Bonita Springs. A letter of credit is just a debt. It's a signal. It's telling granting agencies, donors, and partner organizations that Bonita Springs is serious and is ready to act. Without that commitment, we may miss out on millions and millions of dollars, and I don't think any of you want to see that happen. Equally important, this step doesn't delay or jeopardize any existing capital improvements. It simply positions the city to move forward if and when the rest of the funding comes through. And I know that your fiscal 2026 budget process will give the council the opportunity to look at all the capital needs in a comprehensive plan. Lee County has been a very big disappointment, I know, for all of us for years and years. You know, Lee County has kind of treated us as the redheaded stepchild, and we never get the money that we should be for the money that we put in, and we've been a donor community for them. We need to continue to fight Lee County to try to get them to step up and to help Bonita Springs on a project like this. In short, this is a smart strategic move, and I encourage you to take it. I know that some of you have concerns over the cost, but I think that some of you need to step out of your comfort zone and trust the staff that you have that have put together this party that you can talk to today for the presentation to help get you the support you need, and also to really respect the support that you have from a very intelligent council person that was a Price Waterhouse partner, one of the big 4 accounting firms in the whole world. Trust your staff and professionals. Don't Lee County Bonita Springs by not passing this project. Thank you all for your support, and appreciate your listening to me today.
Thank you, Jim. Right, that was the end of the registered speakers. Public comment for anybody else on agenda items only. Thank you. And you guys can form a line if you want, just to keep things going quickly. Thanks.
Good morning. My name is Pat Miller, also from Pelican Landing up in here in Bonita Springs. I've heard the word transformational a few times today, and I think that's really true, and especially for Bonita Springs. We bike in the area. We've seen the railroad track north and south, etc. Bonita Springs is on the trail. Downtown Bonita Springs is on the trail. Like Loveland, like Xenia, like other places in Ohio, on the trail. Bonita Springs, if people come ride this trail, the recreational riders will make Bonita Springs their target, because other towns aren't directly on the trail. So it's Bonita Springs that will directly benefit the most for revenue and tourists and people stopping for ice cream, for restaurants, for parks, etc. Bonita Springs will benefit the most from this trail. So please take advantage of this opportunity and look forward for the economic benefits down the road that really will help transform Bonita Springs into a destination. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Clara Fasiglione, and I'm a resident of Bonita Springs, a small business owner, and most importantly, a mom. I may be a more recent resident, but in the short time I've been here, I've fallen in love with this community. Sorry, it's like I'm afraid of speech. I own Wolf Moon Cafe right here in Bonita Springs, a place that was built on community, connection, and nourishment. And those same values are why I'm standing here today in full support of the Bonita Estero Rail Trail project. Years ago, I used to bike often. It was one of the few things that helped me feel grounded, free, and energized. But one day, I was nearly hit by a car using a bike lane on the street here on Bonita Beach Road. After that, I stopped. I didn't feel worth the risk. Now, I'm a mom to a 14-month-old boy, and we've recently started biking together again. I carry me on a bike seat, and we go around our neighborhood. But the truth is, there are very few places we can go that feel safe. There's no real path where I can let him experience the world without fear. That near accident last year could have been the end of me. And if something like that were to happen now, I can't even begin to think about what my son would lose. I can't afford that kind of risk. No parent should have to weigh joy against safety. The Bird Trail would change that. It would give families like mine a place to move, explore, and connect without fearing for our lives. It will create a safe, vibrant corridor that welcomes bikers, walkers, runners, and nature lovers. It's just not about transportation. It's about public health, sustainability, and giving this next generation a place to grow up with more freedom and less fear. As a local business owner, I also see how this trail could bring more people together, support small shops like mine, and help build a community where people want to stay, live, and thrive. This isn't just about the trail, it's about what kind of town we want to become. One that protects its people, one that makes space for joy. Please support Bird. Our community deserves it, and our children deserve it. Thank you.
Thank you.
One quick thing I forgot to add is the congestion when the middle schoolers get out and the safety at the roundabouts, and you guys know you've all experienced that. That trail could definitely alleviate that. I think they could start riding their bikes to school like we used to do in the day, right? So just the safety area there, you could move those kids from going across that roundabout when school lets out or going to school. And also the charter school. I mean, maybe, I don't know how far that trail is from back to charter school, but that could help out there too. Instead there's 200 car lineups like we have all the time. So
Thank you,
just think about that, safety of the kids.
Mayor Gibson, members of City Council, I'm Anthony Backos, Old 41 Restaurant, Bonita Springs. I'm one of the sponsors of Bonita Star Rail Trail, business sponsors, and just thank you for all your service to our community. I think I've been in business here 18 years from Pennsylvania. I can all agree, Bonita has really come up over the years. It's something really wonderful to see, and I think the Bonita Star Rail Trail is something that will literally put the icing on the cake at this point. We have a community that is kind of like a stepchild, I think, to Lee County, but it really would put us first. And I come from an area outside Philadelphia, which rail trails are prevalent up there. They've helped the communities that they go through. They've helped the socialization of the area. They've helped businesses. You know, we live in an insular community here where people live in gated communities, okay? They have the haves and the have-nots. If you benefit from living in Bonita Bay, you have these beautiful landscaped areas. This will bring everybody together. And in this day and age, this is even more important probably than anything else going on. Okay, you have a community coming together on a socialization, on a trail that is basically safe, and it will help businesses, it will help everybody. It is well worth the money spent. And there's no question that this will put Bonita Springs as a star on the map rather than a question mark. So I'm absolutely in favor of it. All of us who have businesses here also have kids who walk to school or take bikes to school. I don't have any kids, but my neighbors do. We need this. We need this. It's money well spent. So anything that can be done to make this happen is absolutely 100% I'm in favor of. So thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Sophie Leroux. I hate speaking in public, so it's going to be very complicated. I'm the owner of a business downtown Bonita, and I'm here to ask really from you to be very careful about the choice you're going to make, because it's very important for the safety of the people, for the economic of Bonita. Please do that choice. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning. Jim Oberweis, 16-year resident of Bonita Springs, the last 5 of which full-time. I have no other home. I'm 100% here. This is a great opportunity for Bonita Springs and the entire area. Please don't let it go. And I will confirm that I will make a significant personal contribution to help build out the trail once this is purchased. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good morning, Trish Leonard. I'm a business owner and also a resident of Bonita Springs, and I am in support of the BERT project. I believe it's really important for us to have this and have the opportunity. I am disappointed in Lee County. I think that, you know, again, you don't want to hear about stepchild, but I think it's important that we maybe talk to our District 3 commissioner when he comes down to our Bonita Springs Downtown Alliance meeting next week. But I really support it. I know I live on Matheson, and there's a lot of bikes on that street, you know, and it's only a two-way street, like a lot of us here, and also do the roundabouts. So it's really a safety issue, but it's also a health issue. I enjoy riding the bike when I can, and I don't know, you got to get them off of the road, or off of the sidewalks, off on the roads and onto the trail. So I'm supportive of that. You know, look at it as a long-term vision, not just a short-term vision. That's what we have to look at. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Mike Gasbaro. I'm a board member of the Bonita Bay Bike Club. We ride thousands of miles in this area, and we know the risk when we get out on the roads, but if we could go to Terry and go north or south on the trail instead of Imperial Three Oaks, it'd be huge safety improvement. I can also say that the payback on this project will be exponential, and don't know the numbers, but I've ridden through Dunedin on the Pinellas Trail, been through Loveland on the Ohio Erie Trail. It's amazing. Bonita Springs will blow up with this bike trail. I think it's a good investment, and it's a big safety improvement. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Peggy Baker, and I have been a business owner in Bonita Springs since 2003. And I just want to add my support for the trail and hope that you guys will make the right decision today, because I think it will make Bonita Springs a destination point for a lot of people. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Eric Myberg. I'm a resident of Spanish Wells, right next door. I've been here for 10 years. Recently, Spanish Wells had a huge meeting, get-together in support of BERT, a huge success. And there was also a letter that went out from the Spanish Wells Board of Directors in support, and it went to the Bonita Springs City Council, to Lee, a number of other organizations. And it's a piece of infrastructure that we need in our community. Infrastructure not just for safety, but for kids to school, get people to work. And something I'm asking you as a board, please consider this and approve it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there any other public comment on agenda items? All right, seeing none, we will move on to presentations. Nigel, you're up first.
Thanks, Your Honor. I think I'll do this from the dais, but I'm going to ask these folks to come up if they're here, please. Antonio Correa, I know he's here, he better be. Trish Leonard, Mark Pace, and Mark Clements. And folks, the reason I'm asking that these individuals come here specifically is that they're 4 of the founders of our Bonita Springs Short Film Festival. So this is the first proclamation that I've done in the 2.5 years I've been on council. We take them fairly seriously. but this is a momentous day. It's 10 years since this was started by this little group of, well, some of them are pretty good people. But it was important to our community, and do you want me to take that? Yeah,
please.
Okay. I'll come down there. Thank you, sir. I'm not contagious, but I did have that bug. So, you know, the bottom line is if you've not been to the Bonita Springs Film Festival, it's something that, again, sets our community apart. It was a dream. It was something we thought would be quaint. It might happen once or twice, and instead now here we enter our 10th year. Instead of just local, we've had people come from all over the country, if I'm not mistaken, to be a part of this. So on behalf of our mayor, this City of Bonita Springs proclamation, whereas the Bonita Springs Short Film Festival is a registered 501c3 nonprofit organization that has enriched our community since it was established in 2013 through the grassroots efforts of enthusiastic residents, business leaders, and volunteers who shared a love and passion for the arts, filmmaking, and for our community. And whereas, held annually in the spring, the Bonita Springs Short Film Festival provides a platform for individuals across all age groups and skill levels to showcase their talent and share their distinctive storytelling and creative vision through the art of filmmaking. And whereas, the 2025 event marks the 10th annual Bonita Springs Short Film Festival, a milestone that celebrates the festival's enduring acclaim and its role in positioning our city as a hub for arts and culture in Southwest Florida. And whereas, with the theme, The Magic of Bonita Springs, the 2025 festival is poised to enchant audiences, culminating with a red carpet gala and awards ceremony scheduled to begin at 6 p.m. on Thursday, April 17th, 2025 at Prado Stadium. If you're looking at your watches, that is tomorrow night. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed that Mayor Mike Gibson, on behalf of the City Council, do hereby recognize the 10th annual Bonita Springs Short Film Festival and express congratulations and gratitude to everyone involved and convey best wishes for continued success for many years to come. Done and ordered this 16th day of April 2025 by Mike Gibson, Mayor, City of Bonita Springs, Florida. Congratulations and thank you.
If I may, Trish, Mark and Mark, come make your mark over here. We just need to add a few words. First of all, Mayor Gibson is actually being one of our supporters. How many people want to watch? Mayor Mike has been at every single film festival. He's been, he's a ticket buyer of every single event. He comes to us gladly, and we are so fortunate to have his support as a regular citizen. He just comes over, he just wants to watch some films. But I will be remiss to not to say a couple things. I want to thank Nicole Perino, the Director of Parks, and Janet Martin, former councilman, and Kathy McCrath, I'm sorry. Those were the three people that actually created the festival. They came to me back in 2013 and say, we need to increase traffic at the Bonita Nature Place on Kent Road, something that all your bikes, I'm sure, are familiar with. And how can we raise awareness to that park? And the idea came up, okay, let's make a film festival. Let's invite people to come to the park and make a film about things that they found in the park. The bat house, the turtles, it was literally a grassroots movement, literally. But it was supposed to be a one and done. We promote, create some videos, films, we try to find some partnerships, and it's done. But it became so popular that all of a sudden I had to, Mark Clement from Prado Theaters, and now Mark Pace, with all the printing, the posters, the flyers, the programs. Trish with all the social media, the red carpet organization. We said, okay, now we have a team that can actually explore and give Bonita another venue to show how beautiful Bonita is. Because basically the film festival is a series of beautiful postcards about the city that we all love. So I want to thank all the council people from not these councils, but everybody else who's been a huge supporter of our festival. And I encourage you all to participate. It's a great event for all of you to show how beautiful our city is. And so
There's a few tickets left for tomorrow night. It's at 6 o'clock. We have a really nice hors d'oeuvres and champagne, and then we're going to celebrate afterwards with the winners for an after party inside the lobby theater with the big cake and some more champagne and everything else. But really, on behalf of all the sponsors out there and the volunteers and also some of the filmmakers that are out there as well, we want to say thank you.
And just one last thing. Our very first sponsor, we can never forget, it was Don Thompson and Kim Thompson from Anderson Franklin. I know, I'm sorry the commercial over here, but they were definitely the first ones who said, you know what, this is great. We love the Bonita Nature Place, and you're going to be the first sponsor that we got at. So thank you, Donna. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate it.
Right, thank you, Antonio. Is Jack Brown here today? Oh, there you are. Hi. Morning, Jack. How we doing? Good. How are you? Good. Good. All right, I just want to do a proclamation for Arbor Day. So, whereas Arbor Day was first observed with the planting of more than 1 million trees in Nebraska, and whereas Arbor Day is celebrated throughout the nation and the world as a special event to promote the planting of trees, and whereas trees can reduce the erosion of our precious topsoil by wind and water, cutting heat and cooling costs, moderate the temperature, clean the air, produce life-giving oxygen, and provide habitat for wildlife, watershed protection, and whereas as the city of Bonita Springs appreciates and values trees, as they are a renewable resource, beautify neighborhoods, increase property values, attract businesses and customers, making our community more attractive, functional, and livable. And whereas the city of Bonita Springs strongly encourages individuals and organizations to value trees and plant appropriate species in appropriate places, and keep them properly maintained so that we may have large, beautiful shade trees in all parts of our community. And whereas Arbor Day 2025 is all about ensuring our earth and the trees upon it are all healthy and growing to be as strong as they possibly can be. Now, therefore, I, Mike Gibson, Mayor of the City of Bonita Springs, Florida, do hereby proclaim April 25th, 2025 as Arbor Day in the City of Bonita Springs, and encourage all residents of Bonita Springs to plant and care for trees to ensure this precious natural resource for all generations to enjoy. All right, moving along to the consent agenda.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Motion a second. Roll call.
Councilmember Bogas.
Aye.
Deputy Mayor Purdon. Councilmember Carr.
Aye.
Mayor Gibson.
Aye.
Councilmember Corey.
Aye.
Councilmember Fullick. Councilmember Fitzpatrick.
Aye.
Okay, is there any comments on the consent agenda? All right, seeing none. Mayor and council member items. Councilmember Fullick again.
Unusual. I think the first thing we have on our agenda is I'm delighted to say that we have 2 candidates fully qualified for our Veterans Advisory Board. We unfortunately had one retirement and one of our members that had to leave for personal reasons, but delighted that our first candidate is a retired United States Army colonel and she will be our first female veteran member of the Veterans Advisory Board, Colonel Anna Malkowski. She and her husband live here in Bonita Springs, and the interesting thing is I met her during the hurricane, and that's how I found out that she was an Army veteran, invited her, so we're delighted to have her on board. And then our second member is Mr. Willie Stoll, a 4-year U.S. Navy veteran who's made his home here in Bonita Springs since 1989, raised his children here, and didn't even know about the Veterans Advisory Board, so he will be our second member. Just for the record, we still have one more position open, so if you know a veteran that you think would be representative of our veteran community, love to have them. And I'll take this shameless opportunity to plug our May 26th Memorial Day event, which is historic in our city because it's become one of the most recognized events in our county. We do a beautiful job, and it starts at 9 a.m. on Monday, May 26th, and ends promptly at 10:05. So, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Right, motion and second. Roll call.
Deputy Mayor Purdon.
Aye.
Councilmember Carr.
Aye.
Mayor Gibson.
Aye.
Councilmember Corey.
Aye.
Councilmember Follick.
Aye.
Councilmember Fitzpatrick.
Aye.
Councilmember Bogas.
Aye.
All right. Item B, Councilmember Fullick again.
So this is not something that I wanted to have to report on. Over the last almost 10 months now, we've attempted to work with the Lee County School Board. We've been incredibly patient, and I provided talking points for our council members so that in speaking to city residents, I think some folks in the city feel that we haven't been doing anything. I know there's been social media comments, but I assure you we have, so I'll reiterate. The city of Bonita Springs does not own our elementary school. The land and the building itself belong to the Lee County School Board. But we certainly have ownership as far as a community and a city in that school. We have a member of council who actually is a graduate of Bonita Springs Elementary School. So we've approached this with a great deal of consideration that although we're not an owner, we certainly have a vested interest. The school was damaged in the 3 hurricanes, we understand that, but the school board made decisions not to address some of the damage to the school. So it is now in a state where it is not only not habitable for the children, but after looking at engineering reports, it's very clear that the school can't be rebuilt. It would have to be torn down completely and a new building put in its place, which that is their intention, but the new building will look nothing like our historic building. I'd like to point out that over the last 10 months, we've met with, we've had discussions with, and our staff, especially our city manager, our city attorney have been involved. We've acted with great good faith and an amount of restraint that I'm very proud of our council members, because we trusted them. As of this date, as of our last meeting, we have had absolutely no communications from the school board. I think we've been led down a path, and we now find that there's no door at the end of the path. So that you know, we acknowledged that the original school could not be saved due to the advanced state of neglect and further deterioration due to the unmediated storm damage from 3 hurricanes. We accepted the design of the original school could not be rebuilt because it was not in the children's best interest. It wouldn't provide enough space for our current student population, and that it would be most effective for a new school to be built in its place, thinking that there would be some recognition or a visibility factor that recognized the old and original school. We also recognized, as a very fiscally responsible group that we are, and I say that sincerely, this is a responsible group that you have sitting on this dais. We also knew it wasn't feasible, after looking at engineering reports, to rebuild the 3 exterior walls, those being the east, west, and south walls of the building. It just couldn't be done. They'd have to tear those down. That's how bad the building state was. So we acknowledged that rebuilding the southern facing walls and replicating the building's footprint, so when you walked inside the building, Councilwoman Bogatz could say, oh, that's Mrs. So-and-so's classroom, or that's where this would be. Not even that could be done. So all we asked them for at the end of the day was to replicate a 40-foot by 17.5-foot section of the building, which you see behind Mayor Gibson. That little section of the building is all we asked them to replicate. I've talked to architects and engineers who said, worst case scenario, you're looking at $200,000 to $250,000. School board says $300,000. They should probably get a new contractor. End of the day, we thought that's what we were going to get. We met with them. We pretty much drew the line, and no longer in the sand and the concrete, said this is all we're asking for. No communications. Councilwoman Bogatz, I know you reached out. Did you receive any return phone calls?
No.
Okay, so our school board, our newly elected school board superintendent, now this is going to make some people uncomfortable. She hasn't returned my call. She hasn't returned Councilwoman Bogatz's call. The only person who has returned calls, and that's been a while, was Mr. Bill Ribble. But one person can't change the mind of the school board. Yeah, it's funny, we're sitting here this morning talking about Lee County, aren't we? It's, you folks, thanks for being out here this morning, but as much as you're passionate about Burt, and I am too, trust me on that, we need to be passionate about our school. We've got to do something to make them aware of the fact that we're just not going to go away. But at the present time, I have nothing good to tell you because they've come back to us with exactly nothing. So unfortunately, to my council members, some of you aren't surprised. But again, all we've asked them for is that to be replicated. They did, in talking about the budget, they said they had $50,000 in the budget anyway for the wall that needs to go there. So, you know, that wall would hide the dumpsters. That's really big of them. So right now we're talking between $150,000 to $200,000 maximum. And I think that's a lot of money, but in the scope of the money that they've received from the city of Bonita Springs, for the patience that we've shown, they've given us nothing. And I would encourage you, I would ask you, you can go on the school board site, send an email. You might try a telephone call, you might have better luck than we've had. But we need to force their hand, and I'm not sure at this point what we can do. Certainly going to meet with our city attorney, but it's not our building. We don't own it. I think they have a responsibility to us, to you, to our children, and to our future. Because as far as historic buildings go in Bonita Springs, despite what some folks think, that's one of maybe two. And it's actually pretty much gone. So, any questions from council?
Laura, you're first.
Well, I was thinking of pivoting completely. Since they're not going to capitulate to anything, why don't we say then you make Bonita Springs Elementary School the school of the future, like an Arthrex. You give them, you know, smart tablets in every classroom. It becomes the state of the art so that our kids are the future. And, you know, so don't shortchange us because you neglected. I mean, they not only ignored, they neglected deliberately the building. And I haven't read the contract, so I don't know if Bonita Springs even had the right to go in and inspect. Right?
We do not.
So we couldn't even know that this was happening. I have been there, I have laid mulch, I've painted, I've cleaned up, and I've been in the rooms and they're old. So let's make it a state of the art. If they're not gonna give us the historic, we can, you know, pixels and oil paints are cheaper than brick and mortar. Let's do glass, you know, floor to ceiling glass, open, and bring in technology. Teach gastroscience with cooking, you know, start all sorts of things.
They are doing that.
Yes, so they say.
Well, no, we've seen the plans. They are building a state-of-the-art school. It's two different things we're discussing there. We do, the reason that we've been so gracious is the fact we want our kids. who've been working out of portable buildings for over a decade.
Yeah.
Matt Feeney was kind enough to go through a historic and show me that our children have been in portables for, I believe it was 11, 12 years. Matt, am I putting you on the spot here?
Maybe longer.
Maybe longer.
Not all of
So
them, but many, yeah.
our children have been in portables. That school has been underfunded, understaffed, under everything. So they're not doing us any favor by building the new school. It's long overdue. The school will come in there. What we're trying to say as a city, as a council, individually, is I want some semblance of our history to be retained. It's going to cost them less than $200,000. The problem is that we don't have currently any sort of legal rights to that building. But you can vote, folks, and elections will come soon enough, and remember who did what and who didn't do what. But at the present time, I can't say to any other than council is, I'll accept direction. I'd like to move forward with discussing those with our city attorney and going back at them, but there seems to be no willingness. They've played us out for 10 months. Please, Jesse.
They've been bullshitting us from the beginning.
That's the French word I was going to use.
So they've been bullshitting us from the beginning. This entire thing is a result of their dereliction of duty on that building. The fact that they won't give us the 40-foot by 17.5-foot, that little piece, is absolutely ridiculous. So I say we take the gloves off, and I feel that we have, you can sue anybody for anything. I think we have plenty to work with based on how we ended up here, based on the amount of residents that we have who have gone through here, based on the fact that it is one of the only historic buildings that we have here. But at the end of the day, it's not actually going to result in legal action, but we have to show them we're not bullshitting, and we have to make that act, and then they're going to say, okay, fine, well, I guess we can make this work. They can get us a 17.5-foot wall. Their budget is absolutely ridiculous. They should have used some of that ridiculously sized operations budget that they have to actually take care of the building, and we wouldn't be where we're at today. So at the end of the day, it needs to be uncomfortable for them. So I think we need to figure out what our legal venues and options are, and we present them. And then we go through with them, and after we serve them, then we can talk, because I'm sick of having meetings with them that all result in the same thing. So we need to escalate this to a higher level, and we need to do it quicker. The voting portion that you said, yes, that's important. Let's remember who didn't listen and who did. It'll be done by then. So if we want to actually do something to them, I say we put in the appropriate legal processes, and then we crank up the pressure. And they understand how they got here. They're going to want to sit and try to have to answer for the years of dereliction of duty on that building. They don't want to, and we can go there, but we don't need to, but that can be up to them. But I think we're done. We've played patty cake with them for long enough.
Well, I worked organized crime for almost 15 years. I love a good investigation. And there is documentation available. I know Jim's smiling, but there is documentation to show that there was a great deal of, there's a great word, malfeasance. Is that a good word, Mr. Attorney? City Attorney?
Sure.
Thank you.
It's a good word. Nice long word.
I'm not making,
vowels.
it's very frustrating, folks, because our staff, who have much better things to do with their time, we've put in, I don't know how many hours on this, but we acted in good faith, like good public servants, and we really got slapped across the face, and they've literally ignored us. So this is where we are after 10 months. I would ask council's direction, may I pursue this with staff? But
Specifically with our city attorney.
Correct.
I think we need to get them a letter explaining that we're done asking, essentially. This portion needs to happen, or we're gonna figure out the appropriate legal action. And then they're gonna have to come to the table, because they have to respond. So if we serve them with something, they're gonna have to respond, and then that's gonna force them to the table.
any other council comments? Direction? Wish me well.
Well, I would make a motion that we approve moving ahead with conversations with the city attorney and see what's our next best step.
What would be the expense of that, approximately?
You wouldn't know.
I don't know. I have ideas of what I would like to do, and I'll bring those ideas if they require additional council action back to you.
Okay.
But for the time being, I think that we can handle it pretty cost effectively.
Okay, thank you.
Direction enough, or do we need?
I think direction's
I think direction's enough.
Thank you.
Thank you for the support, all of you.
All right, next up is my item, discussion on advisory boards and committees. During our strategic workshop, you know, we kind of touched on this topic of wanting to kind of streamline things and, you know, possibly merge LPA and zoning and some of the other boards and committees have some like land use aspects to them that, you know, could probably be rolled into that also, just to kind of streamline things for, just to make it easier for development and you know, keep everything all in one house, basically. So I don't know if this is something that staff wants to make recommendations on, or if it's something, you know, as council, we should kind of let them know which direction we want to go with.
I just want to give one slight caveat. So there, a couple of years ago after Hurricane Ian, we had Senate Bill, Senator Martin passed Senate Bill 250, which said any jurisdiction within 100 miles of landfill of Hurricane Ian could not pass any more restrictive, adopt any more restrictive regulations, processes, anything. So as long as we're talking about speeding processes up, maybe consolidating processes, making things easier, combining boards together, maybe that, I think that would be completely in line with the statute. The statute runs until 2026 October, but there's a bill already to extend it to 2027. So that has been the delay in us moving forward with some kind of new procedure issues, because even though they'd just be boards and the staff does have desire to tweak not just, you know, the boards, but what the standards for the boards are. We'd like to tweak a bunch of those things as well. But if the direction is just to consolidate, I think we'd be okay. We'd be able to consolidate without doing much else.
And we would be able to do it more timely than waiting for that to expire.
Yeah, and so for some projects, to give an example, if we have a project that requires, and I'm going to use the Village of Estero as an example. The Village of Estero combined their planning board with their zoning board with their architectural board. So if we had a project that was doing a plan amendment, they would go to the local planning agency. If it had a rezoning, there'd be a recommendation from the zoning board. If there was a historical element to it, they may go to the historical. So if we were looking to consolidate some of those so that the projects could be looked at holistically, which I will admit that the boards, especially the planning and the zoning board, often say, well, we're only seeing this part of it. We want to see the other part of it. That would be, you know, something that could be done and would speed up the process.
Yeah, because that's the main thing I'm looking for, is speeding up the process. And also, you know, we have some boards and committees that don't have much function anymore. They did when they started, but, you know, things have changed. You know, processes have changed. So I think we just need to look at, you know, kind of adjusting for that. And it's not to take anything away from anybody that's on the boards. That, you know, I appreciate, I know we all appreciate everything they've done over the years. It's just, you know, times change, and you know, we don't need all the committees anymore. So I know Councilwoman Carr has after this, there's another discussion on one of them to do something there. So we'll talk more on that one then. But I just want to start this process and, you know, get it going. What do we need to do?
I think I should qualify. When I said, you know, the consolidation speeds up the process, like for instance with the Village of Estero, the purpose of that was not to speed anything up. The purpose of that was to have more scrutiny, to have more eyes looking at the project from multiple disciplines. And so I think that's an inherent advantage, and I still don't think that would cause a problem with the state legislature.
Okay. Any questions or comments?
Well, it would seem to me that perhaps you and Derek could get together looking over what the statute requires and at least make an initial cut at what makes sense and bring it back? Would that be a way to go?
I think, okay, so just to clarify, at this meeting we had, it was either the last meeting or the workshop where we were having this discussion on all of these. Do we have a list of the ones that, because we pretty much named all of the ones that we wanted to discuss. Is there a list somewhere so we could just cut to the quick of it? And if we have all of them and we're gonna actually discuss it again, I don't wanna have to notice this, wait 2 more weeks and then be like, all right, X committee, this is not gonna happen. If we know what the list is, let's look at them.
This will require a number of code changes to make this happen. They can probably happen together, but as a first step, it would probably be the local planning agency, the zoning board, the historical preservation, and possibly tree. And I don't know if bike ped or any of those issues ever get, but you asked specifically to look at the land use boards. All the boards that have to meet, the tree board, for instance, sometimes they're getting called out of, basically out of retirement because there's a project that we didn't realize, had a tree issue that has to be called on quick notice. But, or everyone's schedule differs, so that could result in projects being dragged out a few extra weeks. Now, I'll also point out that the advantage of having a consolidated board is that statutorily, when we get an application for a development order to come in, we have a period of time, both without public hearings and with public hearings, in which we have to process that entire application, which means there's sometimes less time for staff to do reviews when they have to make sure that it hits the timelines to get it to the final public hearing. So that would allow us to have a little more staff time review as well.
So I again say it's a little bit more complicated.
Yeah.
And maybe it's something that you and Derek can take on as
Yeah,
a project?
I just, because we've discussed it before, so I just want to make sure everybody was still on board, before we went down this path. But not only the land use ones, but other boards too, like Streetlight, which had a huge function early on. It doesn't really have that function anymore.
I would probably recommend the way we start is, let me get with, because we had an initial look at this a year or so ago with community development, and then I'd like to talk to, Councilwoman Carr, Mayor, Councilman Purdon, everyone who's shown interest in that, make sure that we're hitting the points that they were asking for.
Yeah, okay. And just to keep going with the, like bike ped, it served a great purpose when we were doing our master plan for bicycle pedestrian. But, it was really driven by the city because we didn't have any other entity there to do that. Now we have a great organization like BERT that's, pushing for bike and pedestrian things that, if an outside organization can do it, why does the city need to do it? So that's my reasoning there on kind of folding some of the other boards too. So, but yeah, there's a couple comments. Nigel, you're on first.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, in diving into this when we did it, it pretty much came to my attention that the purpose of these boards were advisory boards to assist council in making decisions, bringing things to our attention, not to work at odds with us. And I think that what we've seen over the last few years, that instead of being tasked, that some of these boards have taken it upon themselves to actually put themselves in adversarial positions with the council that they're supposed to be supporting. And that's really bothered me a lot. The fact that they only come out when something interests them. So I think some of these boards need to be retired. And if they're not working for the benefit of council, then do we need them? That's my comment.
Jim?
Yes, I think that when we had our workshop, I'm supportive of 90% of this. And I think for the most part, my biggest concern is the retaining the functionality of the long-term planning agency and the zoning board for 2 primary reasons. The zoning board looks at the confines of our laws, our ordinances associated, what we as a council have approved. The LPA, the local planning agency, is an entity that is the advice and counsel for our comprehensive plan. They play a key role in the statute that requires review every 7 years, but it can be reviewed in a less frequent time frame. A lot of our desires for the future as to how we grow are either supported or restricted within that LPA and that in a comprehensive plan. And I think that a separate set of eyes versus the benefit of a single project are probably more strategic in nature in terms of how we use our land going forward, so that 6 years from now, the direction, the advice, the strategic thought of this council is protected and at least has that dialogue on a standalone basis. So I would encourage that we can maintain both the LPA and the zoning boards as separate entities.
Thank you. Jesse?
I would love it if we could, if this comes back next week and we can just, well, I think we need to hash out the zoning LPA discussion, because the reason I say that is because of this. I'd like at the next meeting for Derek to be able to come back, put this zoner LPA merger and getting rid of historical and tree all in one. So we're not doing death by a million paper cuts. So if we can all be done together at a next meeting instead of, so we don't drag this out, because we already noticed this to do this today. So now today we're like, all right, we're really gonna talk about it next time. So if we're really gonna talk about it next time, I think it's important that we have an understanding and an agreement of what that looks like. So if we're gonna ask him to come back, I don't want Jim and I to be on opposite ends of this 2 weeks from now when we finally have a discussion about it. I'd rather we'd have some discussion on that today. So if I were to write the world, you know, if it were to be written by me, I would say zoning, LPA merger, historical, and tree go away. And I think that makes everything is kind of in one house that needs to be in the house. In that way, we're not going back and forth or going around in circles. And it will make things more efficient, but it will still ensure that the appropriate people who need to see it, but keep us moving. I think if we could get in a position where we can all kind of, at least everybody, I think we need to know where people stand on the zoning LPA thing at this meeting, so that if the direction is that we want to merge them, he can come back with something so we can have something actionable for the next meeting.
Yeah, well, and combining them, they still would have to fulfill both those two specific.
They would have to fulfill both roles until such time as we could revise them. So some of the reasons, the LPA probably would not change, their role would not change in any way. They would just, the memberships would combine. From perspective of the zoning board, we could tweak our zoning criteria, I think, to come up to, you know, more recent statutory changes, a little more clarity in it. There's a lot of sections referring to other sections, which makes it very difficult to keep the zoning board members, even the ones who've been there for a long time, to remember these are what you're supposed to look at. These are what you're supposed to make a decision under. The two standards get confused very often. What I would say is, yes, I agree that if you can give me direction. If you can't, we can come back at the next meeting with the functions of both, so you understand what both are more clearly. What I will add is, I was just at a hearing yesterday where I watched two areas that had been planned 15 years ago, big, large, comprehensive plan policies, and then a county commission sat and said, well, why didn't we follow any of those? And, you know, what built didn't match with what happened. And I think that there can be often a huge disconnect between something that happens at the comprehensive plan level and then how it gets implemented when the zoning comes through. So I do think there's some value, even to Councilman Fitzpatrick's point, in saying the functions have to be there. So sometimes the combined board will be serving only as in a comprehensive plan strategy. But from that perspective, when they review something that comes in under zoning, they're going to be in the best position to say, this is compliant with what we've been working on at the comp plan level. So it could have benefits in both cases if that helps to at all. But I do think it would be helpful to get direction on which way you'd like to go.
Okay, Laura?
Well, I was just going to say, the way that community development now does its scoring and its summaries, it really helps. And so if we could stay focused on how they look at, you know, our qualifications and move forward, because I've been in favor of this for years. So if you could come up with what you think, how they should be separated, because legally, right? We want to cover the bases of the comp plan, so there would be two separate.
There are a great number around the state of combined planning and zoning boards. In fact, when the 1968 Constitution was enacted, there was enabling action that almost every county had a combined board. And they still had sometimes separate boards for like appeals and variances that called for members to be from both boards so that they would have that crossover. What we would be doing is combining it. So decisions that you'll have to make is how big a board. Do you want a 5-person board? Do you want a 7-person board? And do you want to add any elements of the other board? Do you want someone who has a landscape architect, so that if the tree board functions get rolled into it, you have someone with that expertise? Would you want someone who's an historian if you want to roll that function in? There's a couple things that you may want to tweak the criteria for membership as well.
In order to comply with some of the organizations that you have where through the state and through grant programs, you will most likely, there are designated positions. Historic Board has one of them, Tree Board has one of them. So in not changing the code at this time, you'll have to incorporate that into the membership, because that goes on an annual report sent to the state.
Okay, Chris?
We talked about this, I think, probably 2 years ago, and I would be in favor of trying to combine it. It seems like it's more complicated than it should be. It slows down the process. Sometimes zoning and the comprehensive LPA actions are at opposite ends, and so I would say, why don't we try to see what the advantages and disadvantages are combining it. We're not making a decision today, but I think it's worthwhile to have something come back to us and that we can take a look at. As Derek says, many Florida cities and municipalities have done this. I think it's something worth looking at.
Okay. And so direction-wise,
I'll bring some kind of presentation back, some options for you at the next meeting.
Okay, sounds good.
Are you asking us to look at the other boards that are not land use, or just work with the land use first?
I think we're looking at everything.
Okay.
Maybe what I would recommend on the other boards would be, if you don't mind, I'm recalling back to when we had the liaison discussions, okay? So now everyone's had their liaisons. We maybe reach out, staff, someone, Arlene, will reach out to each of the liaisons for those boards, find out how those boards are functioning, and kind of get a feel from the council members who are interfacing with those boards, because ultimately you're going to be weighing in on the decision to take some of them out.
When you say liaisons, you're talking about us, correct?
City
There we go.
council.
Okay.
Get your thoughts on it before we recommend retirement.
All right, sounds good. Thank you. Item D, Chris Corey.
I want to defer.
What about?
You're after him.
Okay.
Sorry.
I want to defer the discussion of this item to come after the city manager item A.
Okay, sounds good to me. All right, then, Laura, you're
Okay, well, just in lines with what Nigel and Jesse were saying, I'd like to sunset the special event committee. So making a move forward to get rid of a committee that is no longer really serving a purpose for the city. Our events have become too big. The service that has been given by the men and women over the years is greatly appreciated, but now, the last 2 meetings, Carissa had to make, well, I got at least 4 emails for each meeting, and we couldn't get a quorum together. So it's 4 times 5 times 6 emails that Carissa's, going back and forth with. And I have no idea how much time that is, but it's a waste of time. No quorum was able to be formed, but the event still happened. And honestly, the events are too big for the folks on the to do anything. So the folks just sort of catch up on what they've been doing for the past month. And Laura and Carissa, who have worked all day, are sitting there going, okay, guys, go get a piece of pizza and talk. But so this just gets sunsetted, and we can reach out if somebody wants to provide support. Kathy McGrath was often supplied T-shirts, for example. Get sponsorships, but sunset the committee for special events.
Motion to approve sunsetting.
It's a motion and a second. Any comments? I mean, like you said, we're not saying anything, you know, against the people that have been on there. You know, we definitely appreciate everything they've done over the years. And, you know, we may even want to look at doing something, you know, to recognize them for all their assistance over the years. Because early on, they did play a huge part
Yes.
in putting together the events and the early success of having all the events downtown. So doing this, I would like to, you know, recognize them for their efforts over the years. Right, so we have a motion and a second. Roll call.
Councilmember Carr.
Aye.
Mayor Gibson.
Aye.
Councilmember Corey. Councilmember Fullick. Councilmember Fitzpatrick. Councilmember Bogas. Deputy Mayor Purdon.
All right, motion carries. Okay, we'll move on to City Attorney. Do you have anything today?
The only addition I wanted to make is, actually, it was a recommendation from Councilwoman Carr. If we're going to start looking at some of these committees, one of the changes we'd like to make is make a change to the administrative code with regards to our advisory committees to have their minutes, when they're prepared, sent to the commission or to the council, so that you have an opportunity to keep tabs on what's going on at each of these meetings. You're not required to read them or do anything, but I think it'd just be good if you receive those minutes, because otherwise.
Need a motion on that?
No, because we're gonna have to change the code. We're gonna bring it back.
Okay.
So we're going to bring
Okay.
back an administrative
Because-
code resolution.
I'll
Well,
support that.
They take minutes already, right?
Yeah.
They take minutes, but unless you go hunting
But
for
we're-
them, you're not gonna see
No,
them.
the
We're not allowed to see them as it is, or?
No, the recommendation is that they be forwarded to you so that once the board approves the minutes, that they be forwarded to you so that you have, you know, whether you want to review them or not, they're forwarded to you. So you don't have to actively look for them.
Okay, but we need to wait to do that for?
Staff,
Or
we can
do
send
it.
them to you now.
That's what I was
We're
asking.
gonna change the administrative code.
So that's what I was asking for the vote for. If you'd like that to start immediately, you can send a vote and staff will send you the minutes
Okay.
actively.
We had a motion, I believe, Chris? Is there a second?
Yes, second.
Okay. All right, roll call.
Mayor Gibson.
Aye.
Councilmember Corey.
Aye.
Councilmember Fullick. Councilmember Fitzpatrick.
Aye.
Councilmember Bogas.
Aye.
Deputy Mayor Purdon. Councilmember Carr.
Thank you.
The other item I have is, you recall the case along, I think it was on Riverside Drive, the SOMAX litigation the city's engaged with the 10 homes with the boat slips. That case is set for oral argument in August. I'm looking to see if any council members have a availability to attend the oral arguments, just as a show of support for the attorneys when we're at the hearings. It's to be August 7th
What day of the
at
week
1
is that,
PM.
sir?
I believe it's a Friday.
7th is Thursday.
What time and where?
To be clarified, it's Big Ben Road.
Oh, Big Ben Road, sorry. 1:30 until 3:30.
I can do it.
Chris, you can do it?
And where? Up in Fort
It'd be
Myers?
in Fort Myers courthouse.
How many do you need? You just need one of us?
Yeah, I'll be there and guess, yeah.
Chris, where do you?
I want to clarify, I think we just need one because there could be an opportunity that a decision comes back to council to vote on.
So you're not talking.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm not talking.
No, they won't talk.
And Derek,
Giving tone.
there was one other thing on changes to the ordinance that a member.
Oh, well, we had an item on consent where, you know, as the council's aware, whenever we appoint members and we accept members, we do a resolution, accepting the resignation, doing other things. A recommendation was made also to allow just resignations to be automatic when a member of an advisory board wants to resign. They don't have to come to city council to get approval. Is there support for that in the administrative code?
Yeah, I would think so.
Okay.
All right. City manager items.
Thank you. At this time, our finance director will be coming forward with our consultant from PFM Financial Advisors to report on the Bonita Estero Rail Trail project. And this was a request from council to bring back additional information on financing.
Yes. Yes, good morning. Lisa Robertson, for the record, I wanted to introduce Julie Santamaria. I know you all will recall she's worked with the city for a little over 10 years. She helped us with our downtown debt issue that we have, and I'll turn it over to her for her PowerPoint.
Great, thank you so much. So we'll just provide a brief overview of the city's outstanding debt and some financing considerations as we move forward. The city is in a very strong financial position and has low outstanding debt. The revenue trends are very solid and the reserve levels are high, so that's a very strong credit factor. The city only has 2 debt issues outstanding, and the total right now is approximately $8.4 million. This slide depicts the annual debt service, which you see for the 2014 starting from the left. That's about $1 million annually, and that finally matures in 2029. And then there's the 2020, which is about $450,000 annually, and that final maturity is 2035. So the outstanding debt is also short, which is very favorable. And this is a graphical depiction of that debt. The city has not previously had a rating, and a rating, of course, provides an independent evaluation of the city's financial position and ability to repay debt. And it can be requested at any time from the rating agencies in conjunction with a new issue. Most frequently, it's with a public offering of bonds, but the rating agencies will provide a rating without the issuance of debt. So city staff has been requested to provide funding alternatives for $15 million and considering an interim financing through a line of credit. Putting a line of credit in place does have upfront cost of issuance and an undrawn fee. It usually is, right now, it can range from around 10 to 15 basis points, or 0.1 to 0.15%, which could be approximately $25,000 annually. So it's not a large cost to keep it in place, but it is a factor. There's also other alternatives that we can look at, such as a program through the Florida Association of Counties that has a commercial paper program that does not have an undrawn fee, but it's a different type of program. It's really meant to be drawn upon, but we can look at those alternatives if council would like to move forward. And so the long-term financing, if you were to issue a $15 million line of credit and draw on it in full, typically that would be taken out at a later date with a long-term issuance. And we provided example numbers for a 15-year and 20-year bank loan, and then also a 30-year public offering of bonds. And in this example, we've deferred the principal payments to the maturities of that existing debt to try to minimize the impact to the current citizens. And so the pros and cons of putting a line of credit in place now versus just borrowing is that with a line of credit, you would be doing 2 financings instead of 1, but you have the ability to draw funds quickly. You only pay interest on the amount drawn. And it would be a variable rate. Typically, that would be a variable rate until it's fixed at a later date. So bank loans have low upfront cost of issuance. Typically, it takes about 1.5 months to 2 months to have that put in place. And the maximum financing term right now that banks will go out is 20 years. Bond issue, you can go out up to 30 years. That does have higher upfront costs because of the public disclosure and the creation of an offering document like a prospectus called the official statement. It's a longer, maybe 3 to 4 month process, and there are ongoing rating and continuing disclosure requirements to the market because it's a public issuance of debt. And if you have any questions while I'm going through, please stop. So I know there's a lot of numbers here, but this provides just three example structures based on what we've discussed. So a 15-year bank loan, right now the range would be approximately 4%, all inclusive. And we could look at deferring and paying interest only until that existing debt drops down in 2029 to minimize the impact of that new debt service. Or you could start repaying the principal right away and just have level annual payments like you would with a mortgage. That has a lower cost, but it does not allow for that existing debt to drop off. The 20-year bank loan, that also spreads the repayments over a longer period of time. Right now, the interest rate would be a little bit higher at 4.3%, but we look at the present value difference compared to a 15-year bank loan, and based on a present value, it's only about $400,000 more over time, or in today's dollars. And a 30-year bond issue, we've included this because up until about a week ago, it had been significantly lower than bank loans, but because the market has been so volatile in the past couple of weeks, right now a bond issue would be higher, but that could change in a day. We've seen swings of 25 to 40 basis points a day, which is unheard of in the tax-exempt market. So it's a good that you are not needing to enter the market now or borrowing immediately, so you have some time for things to settle down, hopefully. And this chart just depicts that new debt service, how we try to minimize the impact, but this is just showing interest only for a 15-year, 20-year, and 30-year loan. And we would work with staff and based on your feedback to structure the optimal financing that you're most comfortable with and based on the budgetary restrictions. So we were asked to discuss bond capacity. Technically, there's a calculation in your existing documents that nets out essential expenditures, but that doesn't take into account reality where you need those other funds to operate other programs and services that are important to your constituents and you, and also to have pay-go capital. So if we were to do that calculation just based on the outstanding debt, it would be a very large amount that would not be realistic, like 140 million or so. So we took a more reasonable approach is, let's see, how much are you comfortable with issuing or making available for new debt service and not available for capital projects each year. So depending on the structure, a new $15 million borrowing would require approximately $600,000 to $1.4 million in annual debt service that would not be available for other purposes or pay-go capital. But from a capacity standpoint, the city could borrow a significant amount of money, but you have other competing interests that I don't think that you would want to look at that, and that's why we haven't shown a large number that might scare people. And then the city could also consider general obligation bond referendum if you wanted to ask voters to approve property tax millage that is specific for debt service and that is not included in the 10 mil cap. That's required under Florida law to go to voters for a referendum. So again, market conditions, this just illustrates the 15-year tax-exempt index over the past several months. You see that big spike in the past week or so. Overall, interest rates of around 4 to 4.5% for 20-year debt are still, that's very reasonable. We've seen much higher in the past, those of us who've been around for a while. And so this chart on the left shows the range of, the gold bars show the range of interest rates over the past 10 years. We're towards that higher end, but for the most part of those 10 years, we were in a very low interest rate environment. So we're not above that. And then the right side just shows the Treasury curve and where we are, again, within that 10-year historical context. All bets are kind of off on where rates are going to go. It's right now, the market is building in 3 Fed cuts to the Fed funds rate for 2025, but I'd say 2 months ago, there were none. So it's really not worth a whole lot, but we do look at these as really the only one piece of data, but it does look like, based on the market's feelings currently, that the short-term rates would be trending down over the next few years. So in summary, the city is in a very strong financial position. You have several alternatives to fund 15 million. We can certainly put an interim financing in place. So if you would like to draw funds quickly, there's also the ability to just go straight with a long-term fixed rate debt issue. But that's something with feedback we could come back at a later date and evaluate those options. And a line of credit offers the flexibility to draw funds. Once it's in place, you can have the funds within like 2 days or so. And that's the end of what we have prepared.
So with the 15 and 20-year bank loans, is that like the line of credit, or is that we take out the loan, we have the money sitting in our accounts?
So when you take out the loan, yes, you receive those funds immediately, and it's a fixed rate. So you would invest the funds until they're spent. So you do have that small amount of offset of investment earnings until you spend the funds.
Okay, so but if we did the line of credit, that wasn't in your example of annual debt service?
No, because it depends on if you never draw on it, then it could.
Well, I mean, assuming that we do draw on it. Yeah.
Right, if you would draw on it, it would really be similar to what we showed for the interest only, which was around $600,000 a year, if you drew it in full.
Okay. All right, other questions? Nigel, you're on there first.
Yes, just your opinion. If we looked at doing a bond versus a bank loan, if we did the bank loan, we'd have a no prepayment option, correct, if we wanted to pay out sooner, whereas with a bond, does that get more complicated?
It depends on the bank's appetites and how aggressive they want to be on any given day, because the banks are more flexible on providing prepayment alternatives rather than the standard make-whole call where you're essentially never able to refinance for savings because you're incentivized not to. You're paying the bank to take away that loan. In the bond market, you have a 10-year standard par call. So right now, there's no advance refunding, so you're essentially can't refinance that until about 90 days prior to that 10-year call.
The reason for my question is that we're looking at doing this as if we couldn't get any money, but the bottom line is if we did get grants, funds, generous benefactors who may be sitting in the audience, that the ability to pay that down or pay it off, it would be more flexible with the bank loan, correct?
It could be, yes. Typically, the more flexibility you have with the bank loan, the higher the interest rate will be.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments?
Chris, do you want to start, or do you?
Yeah, let me start. What this presentation demonstrates is that we are financially strong. We could handle the debt however we would choose to structure it. What I'm asking today is that we approve staff going ahead and getting the line of credit. Now, and that needs to be in place fairly quickly so that we can go ahead and apply for the grants that Deb Orton mentioned. We've already applied, but that we can show that we're committed to this for the grants that we have applied, that Bert has applied for on the behalf of this project over the next couple of months, okay? So the only decision that we have to make today is with respect to actually going to get a line of credit. Before we would issue debt, before we would get the bank loan, we would have the opportunity to go through the fiscal 26 budget that will shortly take place when we start talking about the fiscal 26 budget. Now, we have always, other than the initial say $35 million that the city took out when it was formed to do road projects and some additional other debt. Our policy as a council has been pay as you go for capital improvements. But I would suggest that this is an opportunity, that transformational kind of project for the city that would say we need to think about doing a special financing just for purposes of this project because of all the benefits it provides our people, for the safety, for the economic development of downtown and all of our businesses, and for the increase in property value. We have time after this to figure out what we're going to do with our capital budgeting plan, how we're specifically would finance this, and so forth. And we can do that during the budget process. So we're making no commitment today on how we're going to finance it in terms of bonds or bank loans and so forth. But what I want to do is to go ahead and get the line of credit in place so that we can continue the process going forward. We can have, we've got about 114 million in the bank for capital projects right now, of which about 37 million is related to grants, so it's restricted monies. She showed an example of 15 million. So we're talking, you know, we've already got 5 million in the CIP. You know, so I think we're looking at something around 10 to 12 million that we would actually bond or get a loan for. And I did some rough calculations yesterday. We're talking about roughly $1 million in debt service annually. I think we can figure out a way to service $1 million worth of debt service going forward between now and the time we complete our fiscal 26 budget. We can talk about funding plans for capital projects, but I think it's important to say this has got to be a priority. We're going to address the priority currently with a line of credit, and we will deal with the long-term financing of this. Right now, we don't know the final negotiated purchase price. We're going to go back and negotiate. You know, we need to know that. There's a lot of decisions that have to be made in this process. So all I'm asking for today is just to approve getting the line of credit and proceeding with the process of getting this thing done.
Okay. Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, Jesse?
Okay, so full disclosure, I'm going to take this vote and then I'm going to have to go. I spoke to the city manager and the mayor beforehand, so I'm going to have to be leaving shortly. So I'm just going to give you a couple of thoughts, not all my thoughts on this. This is a lot of money. And this project has, you know, as we've kind of known continually, the ask has gotten bigger. We're like, all right, step this way, and then we're here, and then we're here, and then we're here. And now we're filling out the line of credit, and then next thing you know, we're actually getting the line of credit. Now, I'm not saying I'm against it. I'm just saying okay, so there's going to be a good return potentially here, right? I mean, there is, you know, Deb has put so much work into this. I've been down there. I've seen it. There's a lot of good things here. Amy Crumba, is she still here? Her coming here, I don't know if y'all remember, her and I literally only agreed on one thing ever, probably, while she was on council, and it was rails to trails. So when she said, you know, live it back full circle, you know, the one thing we did agree on for a very long time was that. So, you know, I am a little swayed in that regard. And the don't Lee County Bonita Springs, because that is a very valid point. Lee County's kind of left us holding the bag a number of times, so I don't want to be the ones who do that to this project. I am, as Magnus said, I'm kind of out of my comfort zone. I feel like this is a lot of money, and here's the reason why, specifically to you guys, and I just, when we were going over property taxes, and I'm throwing a fit about saying I want to hold the line or I want to cut taxes, and you guys, I'm not pointing out anybody specific, said, the cupboards are bare, we can't possibly do that. And it was for like $1.5 million. And you guys, oh, we couldn't possibly do that. Can we keep it the same? No, we couldn't do it. It's got to go up. So I think I'm comfortable with supporting this motion, but I would like you guys to be able to understand, I would expect that you guys are able to potentially come out of your comfort zone over 1.5 million next time we have that discussion, because in the grand scheme of things, this is a lot bigger ask. What we're about to do, this is just we're jumping on so we're at a big pool, there's a diving board, we're like all the way up almost to the top step. There's only one thing left to do after we do this, and I think we all know that. I'm okay with getting there, but when it comes time to try to give relief in regards to property tax and things like that, don't come to me with the cupboards are bare. That's
Well, just to point out, Jesse, there's no plan to raise taxes to fund this.
I get it. No, I get it. I completely get it. I'll make a motion to approve. I would just like everybody to remember this discussion later on.
You're not subtle today, Jesse.
Never been my style, right?
Well, I'll second the motion just to put the motion on the table.
Motion and a second. We'll continue discussion with Jim.
Yes, I've thought long and hard about this. And I keep going back to this one thing that when I ran for this whole bad boy, I looked at our property tax bill. We paid about $5,500 a year on our home. Of that, good old Bonita Springs gets about $325. That's 6 cents. That's 6 cents of every dollar that you pay on your property tax. So we're not flush with cash. So my concern, one, on this project is what happens if the grants don't come through? Are we all still hell-bent in terms of doing it and needing to come up with 25 million? Because we only get 6 million in grants towards our money, our piece of it. Two, we haven't talked about the big dog in the room is, okay, what happens when we buy it and we have to swallow it? I mean, numbers have been thrown out between $30 and $50 million to go ahead and build this sucker. And then, oh my God, we got to go ahead and maintain it. We got to have light, we got to have security, we got to keep the pathway up and all that other good stuff. So I think there's a comprehensive discussion that needs to continue with this. I'm not going to stand in the way of applying for a line of credit, but I will, to Jesse's point, vigorously support a robust discussion around what does each of our council members' quality of life look like in Bonita Springs for the next 5 years. What do you want to do in terms of the money needed to fully fund the Bandshell Riverside Park? What are we going to do to fund the expanded scope of the Banyan Tree Park? It's not what we put in the CIP plan. We're always asking for money for the new soccer fields. Haven't gotten it yet. Downtown lighting and parking safety has been expressed and raised at the last meeting. Key concern, not in the budget. My fellow council member brought up the construction of a parking deck downtown. For the benefit of the community, we also brought up putting a new pool deck in for the benefit of our children and families here in Bonita Springs. And one of the two biggest things that bother me is when I first came on here, I received a packet of where we stood in terms of funding the maintenance of our existing facility. We too can probably be accused of not appropriately funding the maintenance of the facilities that we have here within the city. And then lastly, when both Chris and Nigel raised the concern and sounded the alarm bells about appropriately funding our emergency management reserves for that next hurricane or tropical storm that comes in. And I wasn't here at the time, but they all basically agreed that even though we got a little, we're still grossly underfunded for that Irma type event. So it's these discussions that I think have to be robust, timely, and before we commit to drawing on that line, fully understand the scope of this and clearly communicated to the greater public. Because when I talk about the cost of the Rails to Trails project in my district, yes, they're all for it. But then all of a sudden you talk about the practical costs, and their comment is, where the heck are we going to get the money? So those, I think, conceptually, I buy off 110% in it. But if it's fiscally going to destroy some of these other quality of life items that we've discussed, I have a lot of concern. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, can we, would it be all right if we considered calling the question, just because I had a hard out time at 10:45, and we're at 10:50?
Well, can
All right,
we vote and then still have
We can
discuss
table
Yes,
it
we can,
until
we
next
can, no, I don't want to table it. Or I can submit my vote right now. I'm comfortable with that too.
Well, other speakers willing to talk after we vote?
Yeah, we can do that.
All of us vote? No. We discuss everything before the vote.
No, I just
Okay,
say call the
Bessie,
question,
just-
and then we can vote on calling the question.
So nobody else gets to speak?
Well, I want to allow everybody to speak.
Yeah, under our rules, you can't call the question, you would not call the question until everyone's had at least one opportunity to speak. Now, you could make a motion to set aside the rules in order to bypass that procedure. What I would ask, I think what we're trying to get to, is if there's any members of council that intend to oppose the motion on the table and want to get those points out before the vote, you let them speak, and then everyone else who has comments on it can speak afterwards. That would probably be the...
Is anybody opposed and want to speak now? Okay, Laura.
Nigel, do you want to go? You're on the list.
Well, I'm not only not opposed, but Chip, are you still, yeah, he's back there. Most impactful thing, and I heard some wonderful comments today, was back in 2000, when we looked at the band shell. That was a big investment, and it was. And the comments were, where are we gonna get the money? If we did not have that band shell, folks, we would not have a downtown.
Okay.
There would be nothing.
But you're on the for side. Let's go to
I'm on.
Laura. Let's go to
Oh.
Laura just to get.
Okay.
We got people that are against
All
it.
right, Florida is top 3 states in the United States that have the most cyclists and pedestrian deaths. So safety is definitely a concern, and BERT offers not only safety, but an increased quality of life, transportation for many to work, to school, to play will be safer. But I think we're putting the cart before the horse, and it's just way too expensive. So one, why is it, let's get the appraisals, and then get an estimate time for construction and the time to close the deal. Because once we take it over, all the liabilities fall on us, right? So we also would have to get insurance, lighting, security measures. But why do I say it's too expensive? Well, it's a relative term, right? To me, what's too expensive about this is what we're gonna have to give up. Instead of pursuing this, we take on debt that is not our policy, that once we start putting money away, it starts to get spent. We've already spent $50,000. I say we do spend money on the appraisals, but Seminole Railroad, they're not interested in what our offer is. They want $82 million, right? So if we come back with an appraisal of 31 and 32 million, they're gonna say, good for you. We want 82 million. And then it's about 50 million to construct. They're taking the steel, they're not cleaning it up, and then we will be immediately responsible. I have spoken with senior level of FDOT. I've spoken with several county commissioners, all of whom have said there's no money. No money coming from the county, no money coming from the state. None. It's too early. But then you look at Naples, they have their Pathways Coalition, started in 2005. They did a 501c, which you guys have, a 501(c), which BERT has started. But then they got membership, they got donations, they got sponsorships. I mean, actual money, not promises, because talk's cheap, right? People say, oh, I'll do that, and then, oh, things changed, I don't have it now. So I say it's the reverse. We do appraisal, and then BERT comes and shows us, what did you raise? How many members? Where are the donors? Where is the actual money? And then we go ahead. I mean, this isn't something that's going to go away, you know. And it was presented to us that All we had to do was put up 5 million from Estero, and then Lee and Collier will also put up money. They have both said not happening, okay? So promises were made or vague statements were made that aren't coming. I've gotten it really clear, no money. So it's up to Bert to raise the money so that then the city has the knowledge that it's not all gonna lie on us, because the city cannot afford, when this public-private partnership, it usually ends up the public doesn't supply, the private doesn't supply, and it's the taxes that we have to pay. I mean, we have so many infrastructure projects. The county has 6 billion infrastructure projects, 1 billion is paid for. Our city, we don't have money for Lightner Bridge. We don't have money for soccer fields. We don't have the money, well, they're not funded. But these are projects that we need. We have potholes everywhere. We have no lights on streets. Talk about danger and safety. You can't even see when you go into certain areas. And even the parking lot downtown at Phelps, that needs to have lighting, because people are using it at night, and it's a danger. So I say it's premature, get the appraisals, and then we come back and see where we are.
Okay. Thank you, Laura. All right, that was everybody. So, all right, we have a motion and a second. Roll call.
Motion maker, please clarify the motion.
Yes, the motion was to.
Approve the line of credit.
Yeah, approve the line of credit. Proceed with approving line of credit, assuming everybody agrees to be open-minded throughout the rest of the year.
Which just gets us further down the path. We're not actually taking the money out. It's just giving us an option.
So that was said in the beginning.
So, yep, but that's where we're
We
at.
did take out money.
Okay.
Councilmember Corey.
Aye.
Councilmember Fullick.
Aye.
Councilmember Fitzpatrick.
Aye.
Councilmember Bogaz.
Aye.
Deputy Mayor Purdon. Councilmember Carr.
No.
Mayor Gibson.
Aye.
Motion carries 6-1.
Thank you, Justin. Thank you, but again, no applause. I'm sorry, we don't do applause. Thank you, though. All right, moving on.
Mayor, sorry, just a separate issue of that when the request was the AAA, the bond rating was to look at. I just need a look of direction of whether you'd like us to pursue a bond rating that does not imply any, we would work with our consultant to do that.
So Julie could obtain a bond rating for us.
Yeah, the way, there's a couple of ways to cut the interest rate on the bonds. One is to get a bond rating. The other way is to get bond insurance. And so I would suggest we go ahead and get the bond rating. It took Estero about 6 months, but they didn't work on it all that hard. They admitted they were off and on in terms of that project. So I would suggest that we go ahead and get a bond rating, if for no other reason than to simply have it.
We don't need a
for the
vote on that,
future.
we just need general direction that you'd like staff to bring something back on that.
Right.
Yeah, it'd just be another tool in the toolbox, so might as well take a look at it.
Yep.
Great, okay, we have direction. Thank you.
Thank you.
We're gonna do that.
All right, do we want to take a 5-minute break, or do we just? Please. All right, 5 minutes. 5 minutes. 11:05, so 7 minutes.
Few-minute break?
7-minute break.
Oh, thank you. 7 minutes.
All right, we're gonna get started again. Calling the meeting back to order. All right, we're on to the February financial report.
State your name for the record, please.
Thank you. Lisa Robertson, Director of Finance and Administrative Services, for the record. Today we're going to review our February financial report. This is our monthly report that we send to you all.
Lisa,
Yes,
just
sir?
one moment. Was that on, Jamie? I'm sorry. I didn't see your name on the thing.
That's okay. It was just in regards to Bert, because I thought the discussion was continued.
Okay, yeah. If you want to make your comment. 'Cause I did say that we finished discussing afterwards. Sorry, Lisa.
Yeah, just for the record, I fully support the project, and I think it will be amazing when it's all said and done. But I do have concerns regarding the financial responsibility end of it. I, as you saw by my vote, completely support the line of credit. But I just want to, as Jem and Laura both said, just really watch what ends up and see what happens regarding, help from Bert, because ultimately Bonita's portion, I think, is $35 million. So if they come back and they say, well, we've only raised so much, and now we need to come up with even more because this project is already here and now we're at the spot. I just don't want to get into the financial position that we can't do the projects that we have started and that are important for our citizens here in Bonita Springs now. So I just wanted that point on record.
Yep, thank you. And I totally agree with you. It's, this is just getting us closer and giving us an opportunity, but yeah, the whole project, if we can't get grants and other things to help with it, it's kind of too big of a bite for the city to take on its own, so.
Right.
Any other discussion on Bert? Okay, sorry about that again.
That's okay.
All right, Lisa, sorry. Now we're on to the February financial report.
Perfect, thank you. So our first slide that we have for you today is our general fund revenue as of February 28th. As you can see, this is a pie chart with the different pieces. This is our general fund is our regular recurring revenue. This is at this point in our fiscal year, our ad valorem makes up the majority of our revenue collected to date because people do begin to pay that in November, which is typical each year. This is a similar pie chart that we see, and the other pieces are listed there. State revenue sharing, franchise fees, a very, very healthy pie chart for us from a regular recurring revenue standpoint. This is our general fund revenue, our regular recurring revenue. We show you all each month current fiscal year to date as compared to prior fiscal year to date so we can identify trends. And please keep in mind some of the trends we do follow the state economists and the revenue projections that they give for us. We have, in our budget, we have made sure that we're coming in line with what the economists are telling us. As you can see here, some of the items, not a lot of movement, which is really good, other than, our ad valorem taxes, which was budgeted to be increased. Our general fund expenditures, this is current fiscal year to date versus prior fiscal year to date. What you see here is that in the current fiscal year, we're continue to see inflationary price increases. Again, we have budgeted for those, but you're easily able to see this on this slide. Restricted revenue, we show you all restricted revenue current fiscal year to date as compared to prior fiscal year to date. The first line item there, we like to point out to you that is our downtown revenue sharing, our partnership with Lee County. It is fully funded by Lee County from their tax incremental growth for our downtown real estate values. So that money is sitting in the bank and available to pay for our debt service. Since they fully funded it, they're not contributing to that this year. So that's the difference there. Building permit fees and road impact fees. They continue to trend unexpectedly so, more than the prior year, which is a good thing, and those are based upon the timing of someone starting a construction practice. When they walk across the street and pull that building permit, they have to pay these fees. So these are kind of difficult to predict, although the state does a good job with that. Cash balances, we show you each month. the current month's cash balances as well as the 2 preceding years. And the reason why we do the same month is to get some seasonality, because again, our ad valorem are collected at one time of the year, different things like that. So it's good to show the same month each fiscal year. We list them by categories. And then this next slide finishes that off with our restricted. These are our restricted revenues there. And that last slide are the fund reserved for debt service. In there right now, we have not only the money we collected from Lee County and that the city has set aside from their tax property value growth in downtown as well. It's sitting there to pay for that. And then we also have the $2 million that the state has lent us that's available for disaster operations in the event that we have a storm. Wanted to bring you our Florida Economic Estimating Conference. I know the economy is these are from February. They might be a little stale dated, but they're local, and I think they're really useful in our projections when we head into our revenue, our budget cycle, excuse me. This first slide is Florida real per capita personal income. Now, the format that you're going to have on each of these sides is the same. The red line is the estimate that they just released, February 2025. The blue line is 7 months before that, July 2024, and the green line is about 6 years before, December 2029. And they really do a good job of showing you how their estimates have changed over time. The good thing in my mind about this slide is that our current estimate has not moved much from our 7 months ago estimate. And you can see from years ago, it's up significantly. And this is our personal income, average personal income for the state of Florida. Florida salaries, wages and salaries. Again, you can see that they did not move the estimate significantly from 7 months ago. And they are projecting that the wages in Florida are going to continue to increase over time in the projection period here. That means for employers and in the state of Florida, they do anticipate those wages that they have to pay to get someone to fill that position will continue to go up. Florida employment, this is another good news. Again, the trend continues to be what it was 7 months ago. It continues to be an upward mobility, so this means that there will be more jobs they're projecting a growth in jobs in the state of Florida. Again, a good thing to continue in their projection term. Florida labor force participation rate. Now, this is the cautionary rate. We all know, we have been watching this. The state set a data measurement about 3 or 4 years ago. When the state starts tracking something, that means they know there's something that they need to do to try to help with that. We've talked about the fact that we have so many retirees that are moving into our state, but they're not participating in the labor market. So that's what this is a result of. As you can see, they actually, the estimating conference actually lowered the number. These are the number of people that are in the state of Florida that are willing to participate in the labor market. That means they're willing to have a job. So what the prior slides we were talking about in this one is nothing new, but they're projecting a continued pressure on the labor market in Florida. Fewer people available, and the jobs that are available continue to grow. Florida private single-family home starts. I thought this was really interesting. We obviously have here, we talked about our building fees, our impact fees. These are new home starts. I think it's a good thing that the state did not significantly move the projection down. It is rather flat in the near term, but it didn't go down. So it's still hopefully going to be consistent. That is a good thing. No one is really projecting a major single-family construction boom in the near term, but consistent is good. Florida private multifamily housing starts. Now, this has been a little more volatile, as you can see by the red line there. Really, overall, they're projecting a smaller a decrease in some areas, but they're getting back to the longer term. It's pretty close to what they had before. Again, nothing super negative. Florida existing single-family homes sold. This is the quantity of homes sold. I thought this was very interesting. Look at they believe, you know, the single-family homes being sold are going to continue to increase in the near term, and it's staying steady, very close to what it was 7 months ago. So that's a good thing for our resale market for single-family homes. Florida medium sales price for existing home sales. Now, this is the price point that they project these single-family homes to be sold at. Not a lot of movement, no downward movement. Again, where we're at right now, you know, I think that's a good thing. I think it's a good thing. Florida existing condominium sales. We all know, we read in the paper, this has been kind of a volatile market, and it's not really a surprise to me that their projections are lower. This is the volume of sales that they projected. They're projecting that to be lower than they did 7 months ago in the near term. Now, hopefully that will change, but we'll bring you the updates as they release them. Once or twice a year they release these. Florida medium sales price of existing condominiums sold. Now, this I thought was very interesting because they say the last slide told us the volume of condos selling are going to be less, they project, but the sales price is going to stay consistent with what they projected. So not all, you know, that's some positive news for the condos. Florida total visitors. I just wanted to show you this to you briefly. Again, they're showing a little bit of a decline, but not a significant decline. But the visitors, Florida visitors, they still think they're going to continue to grow in the near term, which is a great thing. This is the Florida real domestic product for all industries totals. We talked about this before because almost all their conferences, estimating conferences that they have at the state, focus on this. This is our growth for ourselves as a state. It's still continuing. And you can see it, the red line is actually a little above the other ones. And with our economy as a state, as big as it is, any growth is significant. So again, I think that's a good news piece. And that's all that I have for you all today.
Thank you.
Yes, sir?
Yeah. Lisa, I've got a question. The economic data that you presented is at a gross level at from a Florida perspective. Do we receive data that takes it down to either an MSA or a county or even a municipality level?
The state doesn't issue that level. Some local groups do, some EDCs, Economic Development Coalitions, they do have some of that data. We publish some each year in our audit, some indicators, average income for our county. We do it countywide on some of the other indicators. But they don't do it as frequently as the state, and it's usually a little more in arrears, and they don't necessarily go out 5 to 10 years like the state does.
Okay.
So it's my understanding that they do
We'll
not.
sit down sometime and just chat as to what data may exist and what that source may be. The other question is on rental data, particularly with the cost to bring our workforce into this market specifically. I mean, I specifically have over 1,000 new apartments that are under construction that will come online in the next 18 to 24 months. And I guess my question, what I'm curious about, is there some, because of the perceived overbuilding, do we see some moderation in rents in this area and that type of thing? And that's kind of the question that I have when we look to fill the jobs, then that participation rate that you talked about.
Okay.
Lisa, did you get a copy of the Horizon Council report?
I'm not sure if I have.
Maybe we could, I think all of council, they only gave one copy per attendee, but maybe we could ask if we could get those, because specific data to Lee and
Yes, they do.
Charlotte was forward-looking in some cases. Question for you, Lisa, is the data that they're projecting, is that on an inflation rate of 2.25%, 2%? What are they projecting?
I don't have those finite numbers here in front of me, but there is a detailed report I'll be happy to share with you if you'd like it. They do. I bring you all the graphs because they're much easier to absorb in the quick minutes that we have together. But they do. There's data, huge data behind these, and they give the charts out on the state website. I'd be happy to share that with you.
Looking at what their base of
Yes, they do. They do provide all of the underlying data that supports these projections.
As far as the Board of Realtors goes and rentals, to Jim's question, we're actually seeing rents plateau out and in some cases start to drop in Lee County, which is a good thing. Off the TDC very quickly, the interesting international traffic over the last 90 days has only dropped about 1%, except for Canada. They're down over 5%. So some of the projected revenues, they may be recasting that in the
Yes,
next 6
yes.
months.
And then that's the reason why they do. You saw they had just looked at this 7 or 8 months ago. So a couple times a year, they look at everything again, take into account all the recent data and relevant facts that are for all that could impact it and reproject it.
Thanks, Lisa.
Welcome.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. At this time, I would ask John Dahmer to come forward with the Community Development Business Activity Report.
Good morning, everyone. You all have the data in front of you, but it's very easy to summarize. On an annual basis, March is miserable. There are probably more activity going on in that month than just about any other month. We had a little bit of a reprieve from COVID coming through hurricane recoveries. It appears this year we're starting to see that increase again. So we're picking up the slack where other years had left off. Office staff, a lot of visits, a lot of phone calls, a lot of people trying to get things in place before they go back home next couple weeks, month. In terms of upcoming activity, the Bonita Grand Mine is about ready to start coming in with permits. We have London Bay looking at 4 additional towers that they have entitled. So they're looking at getting their sites permitted right now, not necessarily the towers themselves. We still have construction and reconstruction going on along the beach that we're finishing up. Some of the later redeveloped or restored houses along those roadways are starting to come in and are getting worked on. And we have continued activity downtown. So this month, last month, and probably for the next couple of weeks, we're at a very high level of activity in terms of both office visits and the public coming in to ask questions, but as well developers coming in with permitting activity. So, Councilman, I see that there's one question that's already getting lined up. What can I help you with today?
My biggest question is, we measure the permits, the quality of what's coming in, particularly from a commercial perspective. Are we in a healthy state right now as a city?
Yes.
Are there any primary concerns that we need to be watching over the next 12 to 18 months?
In terms of the type of permits that are coming in the door, no. In terms of changes to our codes and regulations, there's going to be a handful of things that are going to be brought to you in the near future to either clarify or to somehow go into areas where we had not addressed before in our land development regulations. So those will be coming before you. But in terms of what's coming in the door now, it's a lot of what has been coming in the door. So across the street from you, we're still working with Midtown, along with those apartment complexes, which are in various stages of construction and or entitlements. So when we do see those coming online, I know that you had talked about rents. Probably the biggest thing that's impacting a lot of those rents right now is not necessarily the volume of or the number of units, but those milestone reports that are now required for condominiums and how those are somehow trickling down into the rates for actual apartments. So there is a lot of competing activity going on right now, but overall we tend to still be moving up and to the right in terms of development.
But the apartments coming in, do you see those as, I know that I'm asking for a crystal ball here, but I mean, are these going to be, for lack of a better term, permanent housing for workforce eligible people, regardless of the income and that type of stuff that are going to go to work somewhere in the region?
Based upon the designs and based upon the locations, I would say they're not going to be vacation rentals. They're going to be for workforce housing. Yes, sir.
Great, thank you.
So, yes, sir.
Comment on that, John. It's
Living
interesting.
local. Sorry, Dido.
Sorry, John. One of the interesting reports that we can get is from the MBA is the type of loans that folks are acquiring and purchasing properties here. And when you see investors, you're looking for long-term rentals. So we are seeing a slight increase in that, which is probably good for us as far as workforce housing. I would do this to you normally because I don't like you and you know that.
It's always appreciated. Thank you.
John, is there a way over the next 30 days, 45 days, that we could determine the number of high-rise condos, so anything over 4 stories or over, or larger, higher, that are in excess of 25 years of age? How long would it take for us to get a report like that?
I believe we have it already.
See that? I was setting you up. That was a softball.
So yes, sir. I know we have the data. It's really just a matter of what format the data is in. So we can get that to you. That's not a problem.
And you know where I'm going with that is, do we have a major concern in Bonita Springs? I don't think we do, but
It really depends upon the building. I'm not going to say we have an issue. We don't. Some buildings you build next to salt water, you build next to salt water. So.
Thank you.
I would rate, after the incident on the East Coast, we worked with, through Jacobs Engineering on a special contract, and we were doing an evaluation at that time, so it'd be probably fairly easy to resurrect and then probably update from then.
And not only that, but we have gotten several of those milestone reports submitted to our office. So we are well in the process of going through those and evaluating what's coming in the door.
I think that would really help council to know that.
Yes, sir.
Thanks, John.
Any other questions?
The only other update I had regarding community development while John is there is that Jackie Genson and I did speak with Dr. Margaret Banyan, and we're preparing the scope for her to also coordinate with David Theriak on working on a workshop to go through the future land use map and the current land use map, and so that we can present that and walk through it. Additionally, there were, after the evaluation appraisal report, we did work on the state mandated changes to the comp plan, but there were optional amendments that were discussed by council and given direction, and so we'll be coming back forth with that scope of services too. Item D is to authorize staff to submit community projects for Congress Byron Donald's office. We did find out that the period of time which to submit was extended. Originally, we were briefing each of you individually, and because we thought we would have to submit that on Monday, it's been extended to Friday. We provided some staff recommendations, but we'd like to confirm those in a vote so that staff's authorized to submit those. And we have pre-prepared some work on many of these so that we will be ready to go on your direction. I think I also want to make clear, if any ones that are approved, we may need letters signed by the mayor for the approval process. So you, in that motion, if you would give him the authorization to provide any recommendation letters as well.
Motion to approve and to have the mayor sign.
Second.
Motion and a second. Roll call.
Councilmember Fullick.
Aye.
Councilmember Fitzpatrick.
Aye.
Councilmember Bogaz.
Aye.
Councilmember Carr.
Aye.
Mayor Gibson.
Aye.
Councilmember Corey.
Aye.
So to clarify, we'll be submitting for Rosemary Drive, Lightner Creek, Neighborhood Soccer Complex, and acquisition of BERT funds, which is on the application. The only other item I wanted to make sure I made you all aware of, we had forwarded an email received from Lee County. As of yesterday, April 15th, Lee County has enacted a burn ban, and it does include the municipalities as well as the unincorporated areas of Lee County. We'll be getting that information out on social media as well. It does not exclude permitted forest fire services burns. Those are the updates we give you in the crew lands, as well as authorized fireworks displays permitted by Lee County or the City of Bonita Springs and its agencies, and any fireworks sales that are authorized otherwise by state law. And then last, I believe we, as of right now, we are under our regular watering mandate from South Florida Water Management District. We are anticipating there may be an ask in the future if weather conditions change. And previously what you've done is each jurisdiction separately would have to enact a change to the watering schedule. We would not necessarily in that case be covered under Lee County's passage of such a regulation. It would have to come back to jurisdiction, and you have done those in past years of a very heavy dry season.
Arlene, how do we, when I say enforce it, how do we let our residents know about that if we enact something like that?
We would do press releases, social media. We also, it would be under the guise of neighborhood services to react to either citing it on site or calls that come in as
And
well.
the enforcement part, that just popped in my head, but not that it's not important, but just letting the residents know.
So as always, it's an informational outreach first. It's not enforcement, and unless it's a continued display of not following the regulation. And then last, I just wanted to thank all of the staff for Celebrate Bonita. It was expanded this year to a 4-night event, and we hope that everyone enjoyed the time of celebrating the 25 years. And as we had said before, we're going to be coming back with your perspectives and direction on the future of the events now that we've accomplished the 25-year status.
All right, thank you. Mayor and council member reports. Jamie?
Just a few things. Thank all the city staff for Celebrate Bonita. It was an amazing event. I was down there a few nights and then again on Saturday night, and it was amazing on Thursday, even being down there and seeing how many people were out and about and walking around. It was pretty amazing. So thank you for all the hard work on that. And for the fire department, I spoke to the chief, and they have hired 6 new firefighters. They're going to start on April 28th. They have 6 weeks of orientation, and they'll begin shift work on June. And there's a group of employees that actually left today to Appleton, Wisconsin, to look over a new fire truck and inspect that. And they're hoping to have that delivered in mid-May. And that'll be housed at Station 5, which is on West Terry Street. That's it for me.
Thank you. Laura?
There was also a great Phoenix Award last night. It was great because it happened at the Villages. A man got out of the pool and collapsed. A fellow neighbor, no association, didn't know him, immediately started CPR. And then when the firefighters and rescue came, the man survived. And it was thanks to neighbors that started the CPR. And it's a free course at the fire station. You just have to sign up for it. Oh gosh, so lots of other things, but it's been a long meeting, so I'm done.
A couple things on the Wonder Gardens. The Wonder Gardens board met last week. I brought up the subject of the old restaurant building that's pretty well dilapidated, and they agreed that they would have no problem if we did something to get rid of it. And so I wanted to pass that on. Perhaps we can find a way to do that when we deal with the Good Bread building at some point. And the other thing, I want to thank John Delmer for working with coming up with a point person for the many projects that the Wonder Garden's going to have over the next several months, making sure that we get the permitting process smooth so that we can get these projects going, that we can get ready for next season when people come back. So I want to thank John for having Mike Fignon become the point person. He's not going to review all the permit requests, but he's going to make sure that the people that are reviewing them have a consistent understanding of the way in which a lot of things in the Wonder Gardens infrastructure works. So I think that'll help out. That's my report.
Thank you. Nigel?
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Mayor. Celebrate Bonita was great. We were there, and I thought there was just a few less people, but I left Celebrate Bonita, went out to the airport, and if you've never been to an honor flight, they had their first honor flight of the year. The parking facilities said they had over 800 vehicles that they parked free of charge. There was almost 2,000 people in the terminal to greet these 84 veterans that came back, and I'm getting goosebumps right now, I'll tell you what. I saw a whole bunch of people that weren't at Celebrate Bonita that were Bonitians out there, and you'd be surprised at some of those folks, but if you've never done it, I would highly recommend it. it's as good for you as it is for the veterans, but our town turned out Saturday night, so very proud of that. Our Art and Public Places Board met last night and just confirmed, I'm just going to ask council's direction. We are going to receive the money, and I think I brought this up before, for a mural project, a large mural downtown. We're looking at the backside of the bandshell, and that will completely be Lee County money. They provide the artist. We would approve the artwork, but no funding on our part. They even provide the funding for maintaining it. And I would ask that one of our very, very competent staff members be the point person to work with the TDC, so that we don't have people like me giving their opinions. So we constantly, and Arlene, would you be comfortable with Nicole being our point person for? Because I think given the opportunity, I think she could do a good job.
Something else to do.
Yeah. And finally, just May 26th, again, Veterans Day. It's going to be a great event, and it'll be one of the last things we have other than the July 4th. So encouraging everybody to attend at 9 a.m. on Monday, May 26th. Memorial Day, sorry.
I just want to clarify, you're asking for Nicole to be providing the recommendations directly to council? Or is it?
As far as that she would work with them for installation, et cetera.
Correct. Is there?
It would come to council as far as their, what they're going to offer us as far as the type of artwork.
Because you do have a committee that provides direction as well, so you're
Not
asking
for much longer.
You're asking for, I want to be clear that you're asking for Nicole to work directly with the TDC and to bring back the recommendations to council.
And that is what our Public Places Board requested last night, but they would come to them, then it would come to council. But they want to move forward as quickly as possible.
Great.
Well, thank you for volunteering, Nicole. That was, awfully gracious of you.
You're welcome, Nicole.
Jim?
A couple items. First of all, I too had an opportunity to attend my first Phoenix Awards presentation the other evening. I think Laura basically summed it all up in terms of the impact of that and the recognition of those that were involved in saving this man's life, that they recognized the event for. I think the biggest thing to take away for those watching at home or reading the minutes of this meeting, I would encourage an active outreach by each of the various HOA organizations out there to get a series of regular CPR classes scheduled for your members. At that presentation, there were probably 10, 12 members that had taken part over at Village Walk. In that thing, they have a regular monthly CPR class that's being given there. And it's because of that, this gentleman is alive today and kept him stable until our EMS staff got there to go ahead and get him safely, and he was present at the meeting. So I do encourage our HOAs to go ahead and get out and encourage a partnership with our fire district. Second thing is follow up on Arlene, Mike Figon, Alan Glazier, and I will sit down and talk about essentially the Good Bread Project. And now that we have a direction on Wonder Gardens, we'll broach that topic also here in the next week or two. We'll have that meeting. So that's moving from that end. And lastly, on our next meeting on May 7th, I will be out of town, and I will formally request to participate by Zoom for that council meeting. So, thank you.
Thank you. I also just wanted to thank staff and for celebrate everything they did to get the event going. It was a great event, and actually the week leading up to it, from Wednesday through Saturday, all the lights in the park. A lot of people appreciated that. Every night when I'd go down there to check it out, there was many, many people just enjoying the park. Kids running around, playing on the teeter-totters and the chessboard and stuff that was set up there for them. So another great event, and as Nigel said, it did seem a little, light attendance-wise, but there are more things to do downtown now. I know the food truck park probably took some, and Sugar Shack, also had a pretty full house there too. And it was a little on the earlier side, because I think we usually did it after Easter in the past, most of the time anyway. And then also just a reminder again about the Short Film Fest tomorrow. I just looked online. There is only about 35 tickets or so left, so if anybody's looking to get a ticket,
And how
I'd
much are
recommend
the
going on there.
tickets?
It was like $21 or something like that. But very fun event, and you know, pretty cool to check out. So that's really all for me. So let's go to public comment.
Mayor, we have 2 registered speakers, Dave J., and he'll be followed by Alexander Grant.
It looks like
Dave
David J.
isn't
must have
here.
left. So Alex, you're up.
Grant?
Yes. As you know, I've had some public safety experience with the fire department for about 10 years. So based upon that, I had always been interested in public safety, and when I was a city councilman here, I was the public safety representative. So I'm talking from public safety standpoint. South of the Tampa Bay area, south of actually the Manatee River, there are about, I believe, nearly 1% of the total population of the United States residing in that area. Now, Amtrak realizes this, and the Floridian is scheduled to come to this area. And based upon that, we have to remember from a public safety standpoint that there are 4 rivers in the Tampa Bay, Hillsborough Bay area, and all the railroad track, CSX, US 41, I-75, US 301 are very close to Tampa Bay, Hillsborough Bay. Should a Ian hit the area, 20-foot waves, there would be considerable damage to that area. The Florida Highway Patrol would have to blockade that area because it would be extremely dangerous for anybody to travel there. The evacuation rate in that area would be null and void. According to our fire chief, in Lee County, there is only enough hurricane shelters for 100,000 people. We have a bit more than that here. Yes. Now, I'm not saying that many people have to be evacuated, but let's say 10% of the population. The only way we're going to be able to do that, airports are closed. You can't go by boat, obviously. The highway system is closed. The only thing is train. So you have the information with you that I gave you, and it's a zero cost to you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ben Hershenson?
It looks like we end up, Ben Hershenson, Avonlea Drive for the record. Looks like we end up at the end of the meeting with the 2 oldest people here, but maybe that's a unique thing, Alec, I don't know. But anyway, I have a couple of things to say, and I didn't expect this to come up today, but I was rather interested in the discussion regarding the zoning board and the LPA. Years ago, and I was involved in a national organization, we went to the Council of Deans. We went to the Baltimore aquarium. And as you got to the top of the escalator, they had this beautiful round tank. And in the tank were probably hundreds, if not thousands, of sardines, all going in one direction. There was one that was going against the tide, so we say. And one of the dean colleagues says, Ben, that's you. So I'm going to stay here. What I'm going to say next is, as a member of the zoning board and vice chair of the zoning board, I would like to hear and see the discussion of seriously considering the combination of the zoning board and the LPA. I think there's a lot of duplication of effort, a lot of cost involved in the process we're now using. It's frankly, I think, very inefficient. So I'm saying that as a single member of the zoning board, this is my own opinion. I haven't discussed this with anybody else. But I would hope the council would seriously give this some consideration. I'm not suggesting take 7 of the zoning board and put it together. No, whatever it's going to be kind of streamlined a little bit. Let's be honest about it. And I think it'll eliminate a lot of this duplication of effort. So that's one issue. The second issue is people in the area of the golf course. I get a lot of emails, Ben, do something about the dirt bikes at nighttime along the pathway. We've all heard an awful lot about that. Haven't had a chance to discuss this with Commissioner Corey, but I think maybe there's a possibility of a suggestion. I know what's going to happen. Well, we'll get the police or enforcement. That's not going to work. I really don't believe that. Now, up in Algonquin, Maine, that has a population of 1,200 people, 15 maybe 100. In the summertime, it gets up to be 25 or 30,000 because of beach and all the resort areas in that area. And they have a community neighborhood watch. Maybe that's something we can consider. You give someone a T-shirt, and especially seniors looking for something to do. Maybe that's a possibility. In other words, where you have all of those HOAs, communities, right around that lake. There's quite a few of them. And just a thought that maybe sometimes you can meet with the HOAs, perhaps, and our condo associations, and see whether or not there would be an interest in developing a neighborhood kind of volunteer situation. Stand at the entranceway to the walkway, and if someone comes up there with a dirt bike or motor vehicle or some sort of a vehicle, motorized, you tell them, sorry, this is not allowed here. It might work, but just a thought, no cost, other than maybe giving them a T-shirt. That's important. Everyone wants to walk around with a T-shirt. We saw a bunch of them here this morning. And yeah, it builds a nice coalition of people who care about their communities. Well, my attitude is I volunteer. Lord knows more than I should have. But it keeps me young, theoretically. So that's one other thing. If I could just have one 10-second comment. For 20 years, I've been hearing about the idea of we're the stepchild of Lee County. The only time I hear from my county commissioner is when they're running for re-election. So I would like to see the county commissioner for our district come out and actually be here at a meeting to present to us what in heaven's name do you do for the city of Bonita Springs. Thank you. Happy Passover and happy Easter.
Ditto.
Thank you, Ben. Any public comment on anything? Last chance. All right. Motion to adjourn?